Today, we journey back to primitive times to discover how people lived, how they covered their bodies, and how life worked before modern civilization. Let's take a look at what we'll explore in today's episode. How early humans covered themselves before clothes existed. How they used leaves and natural materials. The challenges they faced and lessons they learned. How daily life was affected by primitive clothing. 5. And how these early experiences influenced human innovation. Let's discover life before modern comfort. Why clothing was necessary in ancient human life. In ancient times, humans lived directly within nature, not separated from it. There were no shelters, no walls, only open landscapes and uncertainty. The sun was intense during the day, and the cold was harsh at night. The sun was intense during the day, and the cold was harsh at night. Human skin offered little protection against extreme weather. Sharp plants, rough stones, and insects caused constant injury. Over time, humans understood that protection was necessary for survival. They looked to nature for materials they could use. Leaves, vines, and tree bark became the first materials for covering the body. These materials were used to cover sensitive parts of the body. Clothing was never about fashion. It was about survival. It reduced the effects of cold, heat, and insect bites. Protecting women and children became especially important. Clothing slowly became part of daily human life. This marked one of humanity's earliest adaptations. And this need for protection began the long journey of human clothing. Early humans searched the land for materials to protect their bodies. They learned which plants were soft enough to use. Thick, flexible leaves were preferred for covering. Vines and plant fibers were collected for tying. Some used bark after softening it with water. Leaves were arranged carefully to cover the body. Fresh leaves could be stiff or scratchy, so leaves were dried under sunlight to soften them. Vines and fibers were tied to hold the leaves in place. Children's clothing was made by adults. Some leaves tore easily and needed replacing. Leaf clothing was simple but effective against the sun and insects. Tree bark added extra protection when leaves weren't enough. Plant fibers helped secure garments firmly. Knowledge about which plants worked was shared among the group. They learned to select the best materials through trial and error. Leaves and bark were repaired when torn. Clothing allowed humans to move safely through harsh terrain. Over time, they improved their methods for comfort. Leaves were sometimes layered for extra warmth. Vines were reused to strengthen garments. Children's garments were lighter and simpler. Some garments were temporary and replaced every few days. Careful observation was key to survival. Environmental conditions determined clothing choices. Clothing allowed early humans to explore new habitats. Leaf clothing was simple, durable, and essential. It became a regular part of daily life. These early techniques laid the foundation for future clothing. This process marked one of humanity's first creative solutions for survival. Problems and limitations of early clothing. Early humans wore animal hides for protection, but rough surfaces caused skin injuries. Sharp branches often cut through leaf garments. Tree bark clothing rubbed against skin, causing irritation. There was no medicine to treat wounds. Humans relied on plants for healing. Crushed leaves were applied to open cuts. Plant sap was used to reduce pain. Animal hide trapped heat, causing rashes in warm climates. Leaves dried quickly and scratched the skin. Mud was sometimes used to cool inflamed skin. Insect bites were common because much of the skin remained exposed. Certain leaves helped reduce itching and discomfort. Walking barefoot caused frequent foot injuries. Cold nights made untreated wounds more painful. Thick animal hides provided warmth and helped wounds heal. Children were often injured while playing outdoors. Adults treated children using plant juices and leaves. Sharp stones caused cuts and injuries to hands. Healing required patience and long periods of rest. Survival depended on understanding nature's remedies. Rain-soaked leaf clothing, worsening skin conditions. Wet animal hides became heavy and uncomfortable. Some plants naturally reduced swelling. Sun exposure caused painful burns. Plant pastes were used to soothe burned skin. Daily survival demanded constant physical effort. Small injuries could become life-threatening. Healing knowledge was shared among groups. Elders guided others in treating wounds. Recovery took time and strength. Hunting injuries were common. Muscles and bones healed slowly without treatment. Leaves were used as temporary bandages. Pain was part of everyday life. Survival required physical and mental endurance. Scars marked past injuries and survival. Nature provided both danger and healing. Every wound taught a lesson. Adaptation was necessary for survival. Healing plants became essential knowledge. Life demanded endurance every single day. Pain was accepted as part of existence. Families supported one another during recovery. Natural healing shaped early human wisdom. Every scar told a story of survival. Life without medicine required resilience. Nature was the only doctor available. Survival meant learning from pain. Ancient humans faced hardship every day. Their struggle built the foundation of human resilience. Early humans lived in a world without fabric or stitched clothing. They relied on nature to protect their bodies. Large leaves were one of the first materials used for covering skin. Animal hides offered better protection against cold and injury. Different environments required different clothing solutions. Humans carefully selected leaves that were wide and durable. Fresh leaves were dried under sunlight to make them usable. Plant vines were twisted to hold clothing in place. Animal hides were tied securely using natural fiber cords. Clothing often felt uncomfortable and restricted movement. Rough leaves caused scratches and skin irritation. Without medicine, humans depended on healing plants. Crushed leaves and sap were applied directly to wounds. Some plants were chewed to reduce pain and inflammation. Daily life involved constant repair of worn clothing. Rain easily damaged leaf-based garments. Wet clothing increased discomfort and sickness. Old leaves were regularly replaced with new ones. Knowledge about useful plants was shared by elders. Children learned survival skills from a young age. Families worked together to prepare clothing materials. Layering leaves over animal hides improved comfort. Better clothing allowed easier movement during daily tasks. Gradually, humans improved how they covered their bodies. Observing nature helped humans find better solutions. Each small improvement made survival easier. Clothing became part of daily routine and identity. These early methods shaped human adaptability. Humans were not just surviving, they were learning. This was the beginning of human innovation. Early humans had no bricks, cement, or permanent houses. Survival depended on finding natural protection. Caves became one of the earliest shelters. They protected humans from wind, rain, and wild animals. When caves were unavailable, humans built shelters themselves. Branches and large leaves formed the basic structure. Vines were used to tie materials together. These shelters were temporary and easy to rebuild. Near rivers, shelters were built close to water sources. Families slept together to stay warm. Rain often damaged leaf-based shelters. Mud was used to seal gaps and block cold air. Shelters needed constant repair. Humans moved seasonally in search of food. New shelters were built again and again. Knowledge of shelter building was passed to the young. Children helped collect materials. Shelters provided safety during harsh weather. Fire was kept carefully inside for warmth. Smoke escaped through small openings. Different environments required different shelter designs. Shelters marked the beginning of settled life. They became places of rest and protection. Even damaged shelters were rebuilt together. Teamwork strengthened human communities. Living close to nature shaped human behavior. Shelters offered more than protection. They created a sense of safety and belonging. Early shelters were simple but essential. This was the foundation of human settlement.
Early humans had no fabric or stitched clothing. They relied on animal hides and large leaves to cover their bodies. Vines and plant fibers were used to tie clothing securely. Leaves were dried in sunlight before use to make them durable. Animal hides provided protection from cold and rough terrain. Families wore a combination of hides and layered leaves. Children learned from elders how to wear and adjust clothing. Rough leaves sometimes caused scratches and skin irritation. Humans discovered that layering leaves improved comfort. Twisted plant fibers made clothing more stable and long-lasting. People carefully observed nature to select the best materials. Leaves and fibers were replaced frequently to maintain clothing. Daily life required repairing worn garments with fresh leaves or hides. Children helped collect leaves, vines, and animal hides. Human movement became easier as clothing designs improved. Medicinal plants were used to treat skin irritation from rough clothing. Groups shared knowledge about which leaves and hides worked best. Animal hides were often softened by rubbing or drying for comfort. Some leaves were twisted or woven to make flexible coverings. Humans learned to balance warmth and mobility with primitive clothing. Family members adjusted each other's clothing for better fit. Layered leaves prevented direct contact with rough hides.